What you are about to see is one of the most serious and reckless false accusations ever made against a female police officer inside Judge Frank Caprio's courtroom. When a drunk driver facing a DUI charge made the disastrous decision to accuse a female officer of sexual assault during a sobriety test, the outcome did more than reveal the truth. It exposed the allegation as false and demonstrated how untrue claims can destroy innocent careers, while also proving why body cameras are often the only protection between facts and professional ruin. This case illustrates what happens when someone tries to misuse the Me Too movement to escape responsibility. It shows the moment a drunk driver confuses judicial compassion with naivety, and how falsely accusing another woman of sexual misconduct can instantly turn a minor offense into a serious felony. But before we examine this intense clash between deliberate deception and clear video evidence, keep in mind that fewer than 2% of viewers are currently subscribed. So please take a moment to hit the subscribe button, because this story about false accusations and the importance of body camera evidence deserves to reach everyone who needs to understand that lying about sexual assault makes it harder for genuine victims to be believed. It's a Friday night in early November, and Providence Municipal Court is holding a special evening session to process DUI arrests from the night before. The atmosphere is noticeably different from daytime court. The defendants are exhausted, hungover, and anxious. The stakes are higher. A DUI is not just a simple fine. It can mean a suspended license, possible jail time, mandatory treatment programs, and a lasting criminal record. At exactly 7:15 p.m., the bailiff calls the next case, Christine Morgan, driving under the influence. Christine Morgan enters through the courtroom doors. She is a 29-year-old marketing consultant. Even now, 18 hours after her arrest, she appears unkempt. Her costly blouse is creased, her makeup is smeared, and her designer handbag hangs unevenly from her shoulder. What stands out most, however, is her attitude. She shows none of the shame or regret commonly seen in DUI defendants. Instead, her posture is defiant, and her expression suggests calculation. She walks toward the defendant's stand with the cautious steps of someone whose blood alcohol level may not have fully returned to normal. Judge Caprio looks up from his paperwork with the practiced awareness of someone who has handled hundreds of DUI cases. In most situations, he can tell within moments whether a defendant plans to accept responsibility or challenge the charges. Christine Morgan. Judge Caprio begins, his voice reflecting the calm authority earned from 35 years on the bench. You are charged with operating a motor vehicle under the influence of alcohol. The arrest took place last night at approximately 11:45 p.m. on Westminster Street. How do you plead? Christine responds immediately, her tone carrying a sense of grievance that raises concern for those familiar with unfounded allegations. Not guilty, Your Honor, and I need to say that what occurred last night was completely inappropriate. The arresting officer violated me. Judge Caprio places his pen down, a small but deliberate motion indicating the seriousness of what is being said. Miss Morgan, that is a very serious claim. Can you clarify what you mean by violated? Christine pauses, appearing prepared for this moment. Your Honor, Officer Sarah Mitchell administered a field sobriety test. During that process, she touched me in ways that were inappropriate. She placed her hands on my body unnecessarily and made me extremely uncomfortable. What happened was sexual assault presented as police procedure. The courtroom becomes silent. This is no longer a standard DUI defense. It is an allegation that could permanently damage a police officer's career, reputation, and personal life. Judge Caprio's expression grows firm and focused. Miss Morgan, you are accusing Officer Mitchell of sexual assault during a field sobriety test. Yes. Your Honor, I was already distressed about being stopped. I had only consumed 2 glasses of wine with dinner, but when she began touching me, I felt violated. It felt like she was using her authority to assault me. Officer Sarah Mitchell has been seated quietly at the back of the courtroom, waiting to give testimony. She is a 34-year-old officer with 12 years of service, a clean disciplinary record, and a strong reputation for professionalism. Upon hearing the accusation, her face turns pale. She rises to her feet. Your Honor, that accusation is completely untrue. I conducted a standard field sobriety test exactly according to my training. Judge Caprio raises his hand. Officer Mitchell, I will hear from you shortly. Please take your seat. The officer sits back down, visibly shaken but complying with the court's direction. Judge Caprio then turns his attention back to Christine. Miss Morgan, this is an extremely serious allegation. Sexual assault is a felony offense. If your claim is accurate, Officer Mitchell could face criminal prosecution, lose her employment, and be placed on a sex offender registry. Do you understand the seriousness of what you are alleging? Yes, Your Honor. I fully understand, and I am stating exactly what happened. I felt violated. As a woman, I know when another woman is touching me. Inappropriately. Follow judge stories if you believe false accusations, harm innocent people, and make it more difficult for genuine victims to be heard. Judge Caprio leans forward, giving Christine his full attention. Ms. Morgan, I want you to describe precisely what occurred last night. Include every detail, starting from the moment Officer Mitchell pulled you over. Christine speaks with steady confidence. I was driving home after having dinner with clients. It was a business-related dinner. We had wine, but I was not intoxicated. I was fully capable of driving. Officer Mitchell stopped me on Westminster Street. When she approached my window, she immediately accused me of being under the influence. Why did she stop you? She claimed I crossed the center line, but I don't recall doing that. I was driving normally. Officer Mitchell stated that you crossed the center line. Yes, Your Honor, but I believe I was profiled. She may have seen a woman driving alone in a nice car and assumed I had been drinking. Judge Caprio notes this. Please continue. What happened next? She asked me to step out of the vehicle. When I did, she said she smelled alcohol. She asked if I had been drinking, and I answered honestly. I had 2 glasses of wine with dinner. That is not illegal. You are correct. It is not illegal if you are below the legal limit. What happened after you admitted having wine? She said she needed to conduct field sobriety tests. That is when the situation became inappropriate. Judge Caprio remains composed. Explain exactly what occurred during these tests, Ms. Morgan, and be very specific. Christine pauses, preparing to explain the core of her complaint. She had me perform the walk and turn test. As I began walking, she placed her hands on my hips to guide me. Her hands were on my waist and hips. It felt intrusive. Then she asked me to stand on one leg and touched my shoulders and arms. The contact was excessive. It was unnecessary. And then, Your Honor, this was the worst part. During the horizontal gaze test, where you follow a pen with your eyes, she stood extremely close, so close that her body was nearly touching mine. I could feel her breath on my face. She invaded my personal space in a way that felt sexual. The courtroom falls completely silent. All eyes are on Judge Caprio to see how he will respond to this serious allegation. Did you tell Officer Mitchell that you were uncomfortable? I tried to, Your Honor. I asked, do you have to touch me like that? She said it was part of the procedure, but I've seen how field sobriety tests are done. That level of contact was not necessary. Judge Caprio continues taking detailed notes. Ms. Morgan, after the tests, what happened? She arrested me. She said I failed the sobriety tests and took me to the station for a breathalyzer. At the station, I took the test and it showed I was over the limit. But, Your Honor, I believe that result was incorrect. I was not drunk. And even if the test was accurate, that does not justify Officer Mitchell's behavior. She used her authority to assault me. What was your breathalyzer reading? 12. But as I said, I do not trust that result. Judge Caprio raises his eyebrows slightly. 12 is well above the legal limit of .08. I understand, Your Honor, but I did not feel intoxicated. It's possible the machine was faulty. Ms. Morgan, are you suggesting the breathalyzer malfunctioned? I'm saying something was wrong, Your Honor, because I was not impaired enough to register a .12. Did you request a second test? No, Your Honor. I was too distressed by Officer Mitchell's conduct. I just wanted to go home. Judge Caprio looks toward the rear of the courtroom. Officer Mitchell, please step forward. Officer Sarah Mitchell walks to the front. She is in full uniform, standing straight, carrying the visible strain of a moment that could affect her entire career. Her expression is tense, controlled, and focused. Her hands tremble slightly, though she keeps her composure. Officer Mitchell, you've heard the accusation made by Miss Morgan. I want you to explain, in your own words, what occurred during that traffic stop. Yes, Your Honor. Officer Mitchell speaks evenly despite the stress she is clearly experiencing. I have served as a police officer for 12 years. During that time, I have administered hundreds of field sobriety tests. I have never engaged in inappropriate conduct with anyone. The claims made by Ms. Morgan are completely untrue. Please describe the events from your perspective. Last night, around 11:45 p.m., I was on patrol on Westminster Street. I observed a black Mercedes sedan moving between lanes. The vehicle crossed the center line twice within a 2-block distance. This behavior is a recognized sign of possible impaired driving. What action did you take? I activated my emergency lights and initiated a traffic stop. When I approached the driver's side window, I immediately noticed a strong odor of alcohol coming from inside the vehicle. The defendant's eyes appeared bloodshot and glassy, and her speech was slightly slurred. Miss Morgan states that her speech was not slurred, Your Honor. Based on my 12 years of experience, I am familiar with the indicators of impaired speech. When I asked if she had consumed alcohol, she admitted to drinking wine. She stated she had 2 glasses. However, based on her appearance and the odor of alcohol, I believe she had consumed more than that amount. Judge Caprio nods. Please continue. I asked the defendant to exit the vehicle so I could conduct standardized field sobriety tests. These tests are administered according to National Highway Traffic Safety Administration guidelines, which I am trained to follow precisely. Describe the tests and how you perform them. Officer Mitchell speaks clearly and professionally. First, I conducted the walk and turn test. The defendant is instructed to walk heel to toe along a straight line for 9 steps, turn, and then return with 9 steps. During this test, the defendant lost her balance several times. She stepped off the line, used her arms to maintain balance despite being instructed not to, and was unable to complete the test correctly. Ms. Morgan alleges that you touched her hips during this test. Your Honor, I did not touch her hips. During the walk and turn test, the officer provides instructions and demonstrations but does not physically assist the individual. The purpose of the test is to observe balance and ability to follow directions independently. I stood several feet away and only observed. I did not make physical contact with her at any point during this test. Judge Caprio writes something down. What was the second test? The one-leg stand test. The subject is asked to stand on one leg while counting aloud. The defendant was unable to maintain balance for more than 3 seconds before placing her foot down. She swayed noticeably and used her arms for balance. These are standard indicators of impairment. During this test, did you touch her? I stood approximately 4 feet away from the defendant. I did not touch her shoulders, arms, or any other part of her body, as she claims. Again, the purpose of the test is to evaluate the subject's ability to maintain balance without help. Any physical contact would compromise the validity of the results. The third assessment is the horizontal gaze nystagmus test. During this test, I hold a pen or small object and instruct the subject to follow it using only their eyes while keeping their head still. This test identifies involuntary eye movements that are commonly present when a person is impaired. Miss Morgan alleges that you stood too close to her and that your body was nearly touching hers. Your Honor, the HGN test requires the officer to position the stimulus approximately 12 to 15 inches from the subject's nose and slightly above eye level. I maintained an arm's length distance, exactly as I was trained. I did not stand close to her body. I did not violate her personal space. I conducted a standardized procedure that I have completed hundreds of times. Judge Caprio looks back and forth between Christine and Officer Mitchell. One of them is not telling the truth. The question is which one? Officer Mitchell, you've explained 3 tests. What were the outcomes? The defendant displayed several signs of impairment on all 3 tests. Based on those observations, along with the odor of alcohol, bloodshot eyes, and her admission to drinking, I had probable cause to make an arrest for DUI. I transported her to the station, where she voluntarily agreed to take a breathalyzer test, and the breathalyzer result? .12, Your Honor. That is 50% above the legal limit of .08. Officer Mitchell, do you wear a body camera? Yes, Your Honor. All Providence police officers are issued body cameras. And was your body camera activated during this traffic stop? Yes, Your Honor. Department policy requires activation during all traffic stops. The full interaction should be recorded. Christine's previously confident expression begins to falter. This was clearly unexpected. Judge Caprio continues, Officer Mitchell, if we review your body camera footage, what will it show? It will show exactly what I described, Your Honor, a professional traffic stop. Standardized field sobriety tests conducted according to protocol, and it will show that I did not touch Ms. Morgan inappropriately. In fact, it will show that I had minimal physical contact with her. Judge Caprio turns to Christine. Ms. Morgan, if we review Officer Mitchell's body camera footage, what will we see? Christine's face reveals the first clear sign of concern. I don't know, Your Honor. I didn't know there was a camera. Most officers use body cameras today. So if your claim that Officer Mitchell touched you inappropriately is accurate, it should appear on the video. Correct? I suppose so, Your Honor. You suppose so? Ms. Morgan, you made very specific claims. You stated that Officer Mitchell placed her hands on your hips, touched your shoulders and arms repeatedly, and stood so close that her body nearly made contact with yours. If that occurred, it would be visible on video, correct? Yes, Your Honor. Judge Caprio turns to the prosecutor. I am ordering the immediate review of Officer Mitchell's body camera footage from this traffic stop. Can you make that footage available? The prosecutor nods. Yes, Your Honor. I can have it ready within 10 minutes. We'll wait. The courtroom falls into a tense silence. Christine no longer appears confident. She looks down at her hands, clearly understanding that her carefully planned accusation is about to be undermined by video evidence. Officer Mitchell stands upright, cleared of wrongdoing, though still visibly unsettled. 10 minutes later, the body camera footage appears on the courtroom screens. It is visible to everyone present: Judge Caprio, the prosecutor, Christine, Officer Mitchell, and the spectators in the gallery. The video begins from Officer Mitchell's viewpoint inside her patrol car. On the recording, she notices a black Mercedes drifting across the road. Vehicle ahead is crossing the center line, she states into her radio, formally noting the observation and beginning a traffic stop. The view changes as she exits her vehicle and walks toward the Mercedes. Through the body camera, Christine can be seen in the driver's seat. Her eyes appear glassy, and when she speaks, her speech is clearly slurred. "Good evening, ma'am," Officer Mitchell says in a calm, professional tone. "I'm Officer Mitchell with the Providence Police. I stopped you because I observed your vehicle crossing the center line. Have you been drinking tonight?" Christine responds, "Just 2 glasses of wine." Her speech remains slurred on the audio. "I'm fine to drive." Officer Mitchell replies, "I'm detecting an odor of alcohol." "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step out of the vehicle." The footage shows Christine struggling slightly as she opens the door and steps out. Officer Mitchell takes several steps back, keeping a clear distance. "Ma'am, I'm going to have you perform some field sobriety tests. First is the walk and turn test." The camera records Officer Mitchell demonstrating the instructions. She walks in a straight line, heel to toe, turns and walks back, without making any physical contact with Christine. "Now I need you to do the same," Officer Mitchell instructs. The video clearly shows Christine attempting the test. She steps off the imaginary line almost immediately, loses her balance, and uses her arms to steady herself. Importantly, Officer Mitchell is positioned at least 6 feet away. She does not touch Christine's hips, nor does she touch her in any manner. "Okay. Next test," Officer Mitchell continues. "One leg stand. I need you to stand on one leg, raise the other foot about 6 inches off the ground, and count out loud." The footage shows Christine attempting this task. She is unable to maintain her balance for more than 3 seconds before putting her foot down. She sways noticeably while Officer Mitchell remains several feet away, with no contact at any point. "Final test," Officer Mitchell states. "Horizontal gaze nystagmus. Keep your head still and follow this pen with your eyes only." The recording shows Officer Mitchell holding a pen at arm's length from Christine's face. The distance is clearly between 12 and 15 inches, consistent with required procedure. Officer Mitchell does not stand close to Christine, and there is no intrusion into her personal space. The pen moves slowly from side to side, and even on the body camera footage, Christine's eyes display clear signs of nystagmus, the involuntary jerking associated with intoxication. "Ma'am, based on the results of these tests, I have probable cause to believe you were operating a vehicle while intoxicated. You are under arrest for DUI." The video shows Officer Mitchell placing Christine in handcuffs using fully professional procedures. At no point in the entire recording is there any improper contact. At no point does Officer Mitchell violate Christine's personal space. At no point is there anything that could reasonably be interpreted as sexual misconduct. The footage ends. The courtroom is completely silent. Everyone has just watched Christine's allegation be disproven by clear, objective video evidence. Judge Caprio's expression is firm. "Miss Morgan, we have just reviewed the entire traffic stop. At no point did Officer Mitchell touch you inappropriately. At no point did she invade your space. In fact, she maintained a professional distance throughout the entire encounter. Do you have an explanation for this?" Christine's face turns red. Tears begin to appear, but they are tears of embarrassment and fear, not genuine accountability. "Your Honor, I thought maybe you didn't think anything, Miss Morgan. You lied. You made a deliberate false accusation against a police officer who is performing her duties professionally." "I'm sorry, Your Honor. I was confused." "You were not confused, Miss Morgan. You were intoxicated." The breathalyzer registered .12. That is not 2 glasses of wine. That level indicates significant impairment. And when you realized you were facing serious DUI consequences, you chose to try to escape them by attempting to destroy Officer Mitchell's career and reputation with a false allegation of sexual assault. Judge Caprio stands, his full judicial authority evident. Ms. Morgan, do you understand the seriousness of what you have done? Do you understand that false accusations like yours make it more difficult for real victims of sexual assault to be believed? Do you understand that you are prepared to place Officer Mitchell on a sex offender registry, end her career, and ruin her life simply to avoid a DUI charge? Christine is now crying, but Judge Caprio continues. Officer Mitchell has served this community for 12 years. She has an unblemished record. She has a family, and you were willing to accuse her of one of the most serious crimes imaginable because you drank, drove, were caught, and did not want to face the consequences. Judge Caprio turns to Officer Mitchell. Officer, I apologize on behalf of this court. The body camera footage clearly confirms that you acted with complete professionalism. Your integrity remains unquestioned. Officer Mitchell nods, though her eyes are filled with tears. The emotional impact of the false accusation is clearly visible. Thank you, Your Honor, but I need to say something. She turns to Christine. Do you understand what you almost did to me? I have a daughter. I coach her softball team. If your accusation had been believed, I would never be allowed near children again. I would lose my job, my reputation, and everything I have worked for. And you were willing to do that because you didn't want a DUI. On your record, the courtroom remains silent as Officer Mitchell's words settle in. Judge Caprio returns to his seat. Ms. Morgan, this is my ruling. On the DUI charge, based on a breathalyzer reading of .12 and your obvious impairment during the field sobriety tests, I find you guilty. The standard consequences for a first-time DUI include license suspension, financial penalties, mandatory alcohol education programs, and possible jail time. Christine nods, assuming that is the full extent of the ruling. However, you also made a false accusation of sexual assault against a police officer in this courtroom. That conduct is not only morally wrong, but may also be criminal in nature. As a result, I am imposing an additional $2,500 fine for knowingly making false statements to the court with the intent to obstruct justice. Christine's eyes widen. $2,500. Your total financial penalty, including the DUI sanctions, now amounts to $4,000. Your driver's license is suspended for 6 months. You are required to complete 40 hours of community service, specifically with organizations that assist legitimate victims of sexual assault, so you may better understand the serious harm caused by false allegations. And there is more. I am also referring this matter to the Rhode Island Attorney General's office to evaluate whether criminal charges should be pursued for filing a false police report and attempting to obstruct justice. Your Honor. Please, I didn't mean Miss Morgan, you absolutely did. This was not a misunderstanding, nor was it confusion caused by intoxication. You made a deliberate choice to accuse Officer Mitchell of a serious crime in an effort to avoid accountability for your own unlawful actions. Judge Caprio's tone grows firmer. You need to understand this clearly. Real women are sexually assaulted by individuals in positions of authority. Genuine victims often struggle to be believed, in part because of false accusations like yours. When false claims are made, they undermine the credibility of real victims seeking justice. In addition, you will write a formal public apology to Officer Mitchell, clearly stating that your accusation was entirely false, and that she acted with complete professionalism throughout this incident. That apology will be published in the Providence Journal and entered into the permanent court record. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. Miss Morgan, do you understand that your actions could have ruined the life and career of an innocent woman? The existence of body camera footage is the only reason Officer Mitchell is not currently facing a criminal investigation. Yes. Your Honor, I'm very sorry. An apology has no value if you fail to grasp the seriousness of what you attempted to do. You drove under the influence, putting everyone on the road at risk. When you were held accountable, instead of accepting responsibility, you attempted to destroy a police officer's career by making a false allegation of sexual assault. That reflects a level of selfishness and moral failure that is deeply concerning. Judge Caprio then addresses the courtroom. Let this serve as a warning to everyone observing. False accusations are powerful weapons. They ruin lives, end careers, and tear families apart. They also make it far more difficult for real victims to be believed and to receive justice. When someone lies about sexual assault, the harm extends beyond the accused. It damages every genuine victim, who must now overcome greater skepticism because of dishonesty like this. Turning back to Christine, Judge Caprio concludes, Miss Morgan, you have 30 days to pay all imposed fines. Your license suspension takes effect immediately. Your community service must be completed within 6 months, and your written apology to Officer Mitchell is due in 2 weeks. If you fail to meet any of these conditions, you will face additional contempt of court charges. Is that absolutely clear? Yes, Your Honor. Court is adjourned. The gavel strikes with final authority. Christine exits the courtroom in humiliation. Now facing $4,000 in fines, a 6-month license suspension, a DUI conviction, mandatory community service, and the possibility of a criminal investigation for filing a false report. Officer Mitchell leaves vindicated, yet emotionally unsettled by how close she came to having her life upended by a lie. As the courtroom clears, Judge Caprio remains seated at the bench for a moment, reflecting on the events that just unfolded. His clerk approaches quietly. Your Honor, that was intense. Judge Caprio looks up. That woman nearly destroyed Officer Mitchell's entire life. If that body camera footage had not existed, this would have been a classic, he said. She said, situation with an officer's career hanging in the balance. This is precisely why body cameras are essential. The clerk nods. The footage was conclusive. There was no uncertainty. Exactly. Body cameras protect good officers from false accusations while also exposing those who abuse their authority. In this case, Officer Mitchell's professionalism was fully confirmed, but the emotional toll of being accused remains. That damage does not simply disappear because video evidence proves innocence. 2 weeks later, Christine's formal apology is published in the Providence Journal. The letter states, to Officer Sarah Mitchell and the Providence Police Department, I, Christine Morgan, wish to publicly apologize for the false accusation I made against Officer Sarah Mitchell. On the night of my DUI arrest, I falsely claimed that Officer Mitchell touched me inappropriately during a field sobriety test. This claim was entirely untrue. Body camera footage clearly demonstrates that Officer Mitchell acted with complete professionalism throughout the traffic stop. She maintained appropriate distance, followed proper procedures, and treated me with respect despite my intoxicated and confrontational behavior. I made this false accusation in a desperate effort to avoid the consequences of driving under the influence. In doing so, I could have destroyed Officer Mitchell's career, reputation, and personal life. I am deeply ashamed of my actions. I recognize that false accusations like mine make it more difficult for real victims of assault to be believed. I betrayed the trust of women who have genuinely suffered abuse. Officer Mitchell, I am sincerely sorry for the stress and harm I caused you. You are performing your duty to protect our community, and I responded by attempting to ruin your life. I hope you may one day forgive me, though I understand I do not deserve it. I am committed to completing my community service and working with organizations that support assault victims so I can better understand the serious harm caused by false accusations. I hope my case serves as a warning to others. False accusations are not only morally wrong, they are dangerous actions that destroy innocent lives. Sincerely, Christine Morgan. Officer Mitchell reads the apology at her kitchen table before leaving for her shift. Her 12-year-old daughter sits across from her, finishing breakfast. Mom, are you okay? Officer Mitchell gently folds the newspaper. Yes, sweetheart. I'm okay. The woman who made false claims about you wrote an apology. Her daughter glances at the paper. Does that make it better? Officer Mitchell pauses before responding. It helps. But you know what really makes a difference? The truth. The video showed everyone what actually happened. That's why the truth matters more than anything. Her daughter nods, taking in the lesson about honesty and integrity. Mom, yes? I'm proud of you for telling the truth, even when someone lied about you. Officer Mitchell's eyes well up, though she smiles warmly. Thank you, honey. That means more than you know. 6 months later, Christine completes her community service. She spends 40 hours working with a sexual assault support organization, listening to survivors share their experiences of being assaulted and the difficulty they faced in being believed. The work gives her a perspective she never had before. On her final day, the organization's director speaks with her. Christine, you finished your hours, but I want to ask, has this experience changed you? Christine reflects before answering. Yes, completely. Hearing these women's stories, understanding how hard it is for them to be believed, made me realize how my false accusation made their pursuit of justice even harder. I can't undo what I did, but I now fully understand why it was wrong. The director nods. What will you do with that understanding? Christine looks at the wall covered in photos of survivors who completed the program. I'll never lie again about anything. And if I ever hear someone making false accusations, I'll speak up. I've seen the harm it causes, not only to the accused, but to real victims who need their voices heard. Good, the director replies. That's what we hope people gain here, real awareness and real change. 1 year after her court appearance, Christine has rebuilt her life. She has stayed sober since that night and attends meetings 3 times a week. She volunteers regularly at the same survivor support organization where she completed her service. She paid all her fines and fulfilled every condition of her sentence. But the most important change is internal. Officer Mitchell continues her career with the Providence Police Department. While the false accusation still lingers in her mind at times, it also strengthened her commitment to professionalism. She knows body camera footage protected her career, and she has since become an advocate for mandatory body cameras for all law enforcement officers. Subscribe to Judge Stories for more moments where truth outweighs convenience. Evidence exposes lies, and false accusations face the justice they deserve.